Hi, I'm Andrew Cochran, the state's eProcurement manager. I'd like to take some time today to talk to you about our eProcurement journey. The agenda topics that we'll be covering today, we're going to talk a little bit about what eProcurement is, what the benefits are, what functionality is included in the eProcurement solution, and as well as what our approach is for rolling the solution out. So when we talk about eProcurement, eProcurement is really about fundamentally changing how the state purchases goods and services, as well as about transforming those processes and those policies that we use and actually to do our procurement. What we're really envisioning is a central point where all of these different audiences that you see listed here on the left-hand side, whether I'm a local government, a state agency, or a supplier, really having one place for all of those different stakeholders to go in order to do their procurement, as opposed to what we have today, where it's very disjointed, very segregated approach to doing procurement, where a lot of agencies might have their own systems or their own websites to send people to do different parts of the process. And so what we're really looking for is just trying to drive people to one place, that central point, where it kind of helps to remove some of the questions and some of the confusion about how to do procurement for the state of Ohio. So when we talk about what eProcurement is, we wanted to take a minute to kind of talk about some of the problems that we're trying to solve, as well as where we're hoping to move in the future. So when we talk about the problems that we're trying to solve, one of them is just transactional inefficiency. The fact that it takes a lot of time for our staff, as well as for suppliers, to figure out how to buy with the state of Ohio, or to do business with the state of Ohio. And there's also a high cost of doing business as a result of that. And taken together, these things really do kind of create a challenging user experience where it's very difficult to kind of navigate through all of those different requirements in order to place an order or in order to get business with the state. As part of the project, we'll be working with state agencies to try to identify where there's opportunities to streamline those processes, and then also benchmarking from our partners in other states as well as national procurement associations to help us implement best practices. And where we ultimately hope to go in the future as a result of this project, we really hope to achieve a couple of strategic goals. One being best value focused, where we're really starting to try to increase efficiency for agencies and businesses through re-engineering, modernizing and standardizing those practices, and then reducing or eliminating paperwork. So when we talk about empowered procurement, what we really mean there is giving agencies the ability, giving them the tools and the data that they need to make procurement decisions on their own and to be able to do so quickly. When we talk about a business-friendly climate, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where it's really about starting to establish that one point of doing business with the state, and so that as a business, I don't have to go out to every different cabinet agency's website to see their procurement opportunities, and I also don't have to learn every agency's unique way of doing business with suppliers, instead trying to focus more on establishing standard processes to do business with the state. Increased effectiveness is our last one, and that one is really about, again, using those new policies, those new processes in the new eProcurement solution to help make our employees as well as our suppliers more effective at what they do on a daily basis. And then we'll start to talk about what the benefits are. And so what we've done is we've kind of segmented this out to focus on the benefits for a couple of different stakeholders. And so the first group that we wanted to talk about is the benefits for state agencies, boards, and commissions. So there's a couple of different pieces of functionality here that you'll see that we believe will be very beneficial to state agencies. I'll highlight the fact that we do envision having the solution synced up with our State of Ohio user ID for single sign-on to the solution. And we'll also be working with OBM very closely to figure out how we handle supplier registrations in the system. Currently, we have the OBM Supplier Portal. With the eProcurement solution, we do have some supplier portal functionality available to us as well. And so really trying to be good partners with OBM and working with them to make sure that we start to develop that seamless process for suppliers as well as for the state staff to be able to manage that supplier data and access it when we need it. One of the things that I'm probably actually most excited about for this project is the robust rules engine. And so what we are talking about here is really starting to build out all of those different procurement policies and rules and workflows and approvals, building all of that into the system, and so that the end user no longer has to stop and think about each of those and take action when they determine that they need to go get someone's approval or that there's a policy that they need to comply with. Trying to actually bake all of that into the system so that as an agency user goes through and determines what they need and wants to buy something, those rules kind of are already taking place behind the scenes and executing, so that the end user doesn't have to stop and kind of think through that. The system does it for them. And then the last piece on this slide here is this open marketplace. And this is really where agency shoppers will go to actually find items that are available on contract and off contract, and also do that comparison shopping between those different offerings to determine which option is best for their agency. We do also anticipate having requisite procurement programs represented in the open marketplace. And then, like I said, contracts, those state contracts that DAS has established today, as well as those sources that maybe don't have a contract, but letting companies come in and actually post their product offerings as well in the marketplace for comparison. All of that will then be governed by that robust rules engine that I talked about to make sure that we're not violating procurement policies, but also very excited about having that ability to have those contracts and non-contract sources showing up in the marketplace. Quick Quote is another great feature for state agencies. This is really going to be a simplified bidding process where agencies can quickly go out and do their 3 bids to fulfill any statutory or rule-based requirements. This is one that, especially as we start talking about state term schedule purchases, we anticipate that being a huge win for the agencies to be able to have that quick quoting functionality. So it will also then expand competition. And what I mean by that is that when I'm in the solution and I want to go purchase and solicit 3 quotes, instead of me having now as an agency to go out and manually pick 3 different suppliers and get those quotes back, at the click of a button, I can actually send out this opportunity or this quote to every supplier who's registered in the system under these certain account codes or under these certain commodity codes that I'm actually interested in purchasing. And it will actually send that notification out to everyone who's registered in eProcurement. Obviously, that will greatly expand how much competition I'm potentially getting on my quotes now. Solicitation management is another feature, and this is really going to be about the ability for agencies as well as our central procurement staff to be able to actually build those solicitations in the system, publish them, again, send out notification to all of the suppliers registered, and then do that evaluation and award process, working through the negotiation process as well to basically work up to that contract award point. And then contract management is the next one, where after I've either done my solicitation or if I just have a contract that I want to go ahead and put in the system, I can go now and put that in there, and then I can manage everything about that contract from the eProcurement solution, whether it's a notification, an amendment, a renewal, contract management in terms of managing the vendor's performance. All of that functionality now available to me as part of the eProcurement solution. And then last but not least, this whole concept of data analytics and reporting will be a module of the system where we'll now be able to do a little bit more strategic analysis around what the state buys, when it buys, how it buys, and looking at all of those different types of metrics, as well as looking at things like processing times to really help kind of drive our future improvement efforts or our future strategic sourcing efforts. Some benefits for local government and higher education, the ability to do electronic ordering, which will hopefully allow us to make things easier as well as faster. And it'll also provide a lot more auditing and public transparency into these procurement activities. It will also provide those local governments and these higher education institutions, the system will also provide them with the ability to look at what's on statewide contract and easily access those offerings in order to make purchases off of them. Again, allow them to leverage the state's buying power so that they're not having to go out and solicit on their own and set up their own contracts. They can instead kind of pool that buying power with the state and with all the other local governments and higher education institutions to get that better pricing. We've already talked about more competition, but I think it bears repeating here that, again, with all of the suppliers registered in the system, these stakeholders will have the ability to create a solicitation. They can send it out to everyone statewide now instead of just going maybe to the same local vendors that they always have. We've talked about contract management and then also Supplier Portal. It gives them the ability to change the way that they interact with their suppliers as well and leverage a lot of the functionality that the state envisions ending up using. A couple other things that I'll call out here. We do have the ability to integrate with their financial systems, whether it's real-time or batch capabilities. And then it also gives them the ability to use our state system. They don't have to buy or support their own. They don't have to go out and do their own procurement opportunities. They've got something here that a lot of others are already using as well. And it gives them an opportunity to kind of piggyback off of, again, the state's buying power and to leverage a very innovative and proven tool that we're really excited to be rolling out. For suppliers, we've talked a little bit about the Supplier Portal. This will give them an opportunity to go on to a portal and retrieve their orders. Like I said, we are still working with OBM to kind of carefully coordinate how we roll this out, either in tandem with the eSupplier Portal or talking about what other options might be available to the state as we move forward. But this will also give them the ability to have visibility and accessibility to all the buyers, whether they're state agencies or local governments or higher education institutions. Again, once you've registered in the system and indicated what commodities you provide, then you'll start to get all of those solicitation opportunities as the state or the local governments put those opportunities out. The last thing that this will do, and we've talked a little bit about this already as well, is that open marketplace. And so the ability, again, for me as a supplier, even if I don't hold a contract with the state, to go ahead and post my contract or my catalog of offerings on the open marketplace, and then let state agencies and all of the other users shop those and determine whether or not they want to purchase from me. A couple other things, I've already kind of talked about the electronic ordering, but getting those orders electronically now from the state as opposed to getting either PDFs emailed to me or getting things still by mail or by fax, getting those orders now electronically and potentially helping to improve the delivery time as well as the payment timeline. There will also be the ability to do analytics and reporting. And so suppliers can actually start to kind of interactively look at what the state is spending on, when they're spending on it, and start to understand how they may need to cater their offering, their solicitation responses, or their catalogs to the state to make their options more attractive to state buyers. So this slide is really just kind of a summary of the different types of things that will be available in the Ohio eMarketplace. And so you can see those different offerings listed there. The plan will be to actually expand out the product offerings in the Ohio eMarketplace, starting with our spring release. And so for our release in December, it's going to be a fairly limited scope. And there will be some of these different items on there. Some of the maintenance, repair, and operation supplies, some information technology products, and then also office supplies. But again, the plan moving forward will be to greatly expand this product offering with the vision ultimately being that all of the state contracts, all of the state catalogs are available for and are listed in the eProcurement solution. So I've already talked about, again, what our strategic goals are that you can see listed there on the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side, you'll see this multicolored circle, and this is really just kind of another way to help summarize all of the different pieces of the eProcurement solution that we are contracting for and that we will be providing. So we've already talked about the supplier piece as far as managing the supplier accounts and how they can interact with the state. But you also see the ability to manage contracts, to load those catalogs into the system, to do that shopping, to shop with my P card, to do analytics and reporting. And then there are also some other things in terms of that whole request to pay process. And that's really where our integration with Oaks is going to be key, so that we can pass information back and forth with Oaks to make sure that it remains the state's accounting system of record. And then we get into the sourcing piece, where again I've talked about that ability to do the quick quoting or the solicitations and that contract management. And then the supplier and buyer portals as well. So for our initial launch, we are basically launching with 12 early adopter agencies. And you can see those agencies listed on the left-hand side of the screen. And what we're doing for our initial launch here in December is actually turning on just a subset of this functionality. And this was really key in order to demonstrate some quick wins for the eProcurement program and really help to kind of demonstrate the usability of the solution. And so what you'll see is that the suppliers, contracts, catalogs, shop and order, and P-cards pieces of the circle are kind of highlighted here in black text. Those will be the first modules that actually start to go live in December, with the plan to build out these remaining pieces of functionality over the rest of the project plan that I'll talk about in a little bit here. But for December, at the end of the day, you can really kind of just think of the December release as the ability for a limited number of shoppers, of P-card holders from our early adopter agencies, having the ability to go into the Ohio eMarketplace to shop on a select number of state catalogs, of state-approved catalogs, and then also with that, the ability to shop, to actually place those P-card orders in the system and actually send those out to the suppliers. So at a higher level, what's our approach here over the next couple of years? So I've already talked about what we're looking to do here by December of 2018, really just that Ohio eMarketplace P-card only functionality. And then as we move into 2019, we'll be working on actually fully building out the functionality of the eProcurement solution. So kind of building out all of the different pieces of that circle for our early adopter agencies, and then starting to work on starting to look forward and start to onboard those other remaining cabinet agencies, those superintended and non-superintended agencies out into 2020. And then out beyond that, we'll be working on starting to go out and actually onboard local governments into the solution. So at a high level, here's the timeline for what we're looking at. We've already talked about the eMarketplace going live in December. The Procure to Pay release will be in May of 2019. So the sourcing and bid management functionality then will go live in September of 2019, and then the contract management and data analytics going live in December of 2019. So that's a very high level, but here's a little bit more detailed approach, detailed Gantt chart of the project and how we plan to get to the deployment of the full functionality of the solution. So you can see where we're at right now is that we're basically wrapping up the design for the eMarketplace, the open marketplace functionality, and then you can kind of see there that we'll be working on build and then test to go live by December. And then you can kind of see that pattern repeat itself for the other releases. We'll be going through those design phases, into the build phases, and then test, and then ultimately going live. All the go live dates are planned for Mondays, and so we'll have a weekend of activities prior to that to basically make that go, no-go decision, and then going live on a Monday just to give ourselves the full week to kind of handle help desk calls, monitor issues, and make sure that we're getting the system rolled out smoothly. The last thing that I will point out, and I'm going to be talking more about this here in a few minutes, is that OCM and training row at the bottom. We will be having a lot of change management and training support activities going on throughout the life of the project. So a little bit more detail here on the eMarketplace release in order to get to December. And so I've already talked about where we're at in terms of wrapping up the design sessions and then working on the build phases. And we'll be working on our testing here primarily in the month of November, again with the deployment plan for December 17th of 2018. The last piece on there is post-production support, and so we will also have 90 days of support from the supplier after the functionality goes live, where they'll basically be on site with our contact center at OSS to help our help desk staff get up to speed, learn how to handle tickets, and make sure that we're in a position to adequately support the solution at the end of those 90 days. So as we talk about the design sessions especially, wanted to take a minute to kind of talk a little bit more about how our early adopter agencies fit into these design sessions. This is another area of the project that I'm really excited about. I think we have a great team in place. And what we're going to be doing is kind of going through this design process in a couple of different phases. So we will have our project management team. That's kind of our core team that we'll be starting those design sessions with. And really helping to influence kind of those core foundational decisions that need to be made. However, our central design group is going to be very closely tied at the hip with our project management team. That central design group is actually going to be the group sitting in the design sessions with us, helping to really drive that solution design for all four all four work streams of the project. And they'll really be the ones helping us to develop that core model. And then there will also be our partners in going out to that build review group, which consists of stakeholders from all of the early adopter agencies, including those in the central design group. And we'll be going out to that build review group to basically validate the designs that have been developed and make sure that it also meets the needs of the rest of the early adopter agencies. And so at the end of the day, this process is really going to allow us to help make decisions quickly, but also make it with DAS and OBM and these early adopter agencies at the table, all basically being equal stakeholders and really having a chance to weigh in and make sure that their perspectives and that their concerns are accounted for and factored into the design of the solution. One of the other things that I'm very excited about on this project is our change management approach. And so this is a critical piece of this project, is really assigning a resource to each agency, each early adopter agency, to kind of help guide them through the process of the eProcurement project and guide them through all of the changes that will be occurring. And so you can see here that we do have a resource for each agency, and each resource will only have 3 agencies. So they can really help to tailor approaches for each agency, help provide the project team with some feedback on things to look out for at each agency and considerations that need to be taken into account. We will also have a change management resource that's focused on suppliers, and that will be key in terms of helping to market, again, what is the state doing, and how do I participate in talking to them about things like orders. How do I receive orders? How do I interact with the system? And just really having a resource that's devoted to looking at things from the supplier's perspective, I think will be tremendously valuable to us to make sure that they understand what we're doing as well as why we're doing it, and then ultimately how to change and adopt the eProcurement solution. So my invitation to you is that I would like all of you to join us on this journey. One of the things that we can't stress enough from DAS's perspective is that we want to hear your perspectives. This is your system at the end of the day. We are just here to help to support it and to manage it and to run it. But at the end of the day, this is really all about what your needs are and how the system can be configured to help meet your needs. Please let us know how you want to stay informed. Please continue to bring your ideas and your perspectives and concerns forward to us so that we can make sure we're taking those into account. And be on the lookout for updates from us. We are trying to be very conscious about providing those updates as well, and we'll talk about that right now here. We have a couple of different resources available to you. We do have these fact sheets that are available. All of this is available on our webpage, by the way. These one-pagers, though, that just kind of at a very high level summarize some of the things that I've talked to you about today. We do have those catered for each of our major stakeholder groups. So one for state agencies, one for suppliers, one for local governments and institutions of higher education. We also have an email box set up at eprocurement@das.ohio.gov. So feel free to email us. We're checking that email daily. We'll make sure that we get back to you. And then last but not least, we do have our FAQs up on the website as well. So what are those things that people are consistently kind of wondering about? What are the answers to those questions? You can find that information there as well. Last but not least, I'd like to just say thank you for joining us on this journey. We are very excited about where we're headed with the eProcurement solution, and I can't stress enough, we want you to join us. We want to hear your perspectives along the way to make sure that we're taking those things into account. So thank you. Please do reach out to us.